Hey everyone, Nigel and Luke here, and welcome to Crime Zone. The novelty of a novelty license plate appears to have worn off for one 19-year-old Florida man this week after he allegedly decided to lead police on a reckless high-speed chase on his motorcycle, but authorities ended up with the last laugh. According to reports, the whole thing started just before 7 p.m. on March 12th, when a deputy with the Volusia County Sheriff's Office spotted something while on patrol in the city of Port Orange. After noticing a group of motorcycle riders popping wheelies near Dunlawton Avenue, he drove over to investigate. That's when he realized that he recognized one of the riders, later identified as 19-year-old Ashton Jarvis. Or rather, he recognized his novelty license plate. The fake plate read "Will Run" and was the same one that had been involved in a police pursuit during the area's bike week the week before. The deputy got out of his vehicle to approach Jarvis. However, before he could get to him, the 19-year-old reportedly took off once again, prompting a chase. The situation quickly got dangerous, with Jarvis evading authorities through multiple cities. During this time, he was captured on aerial surveillance by helicopters running red lights, weaving in and out of traffic, and hitting speeds upwards of 145 miles per hour. At one point, the helicopter following him even noted that the 19-year-old was pulling away from them. The chase finally came to an end after Jarvis apparently decided to get cocky. While circling a police cruiser that was chasing him, he allegedly yelled to an officer, quote, "What happens if I stop?" He reportedly got close enough that the officer was able to pull out their taser, prompting the 19-year-old to jump off his bike and surrender. Body cam footage shows another officer approaching and asking, "Oh man, was that fun?" To which Jarvis can be heard responding, "No, not really." According to police, after the 19-year-old's arrest, he stated that he purchased his fake license plate after seeing it online and thinking it was funny. I imagine what was less funny, though, is when he was charged with fleeing at high speed, reckless driving, and possession of a counterfeit license plate, as well as numerous traffic violations. Authorities in Bingham County, Idaho released the details of a bizarre and disturbing case this week after a local man allegedly shot and killed his ex-girlfriend's horse last month during the middle of a drunken freakout over their recent breakup. According to reports, the whole thing began shortly before 5 p.m. on February 6th, when police were called to a property in the small town of Moreland with a request for assistance. It's unclear who actually made that call. However, when officers arrived at the scene, they were apparently greeted by a resident there, 24-year-old Sean Braden Jones. After approaching police, Jones reportedly led them to the body of a 12-year-old American quarter horse. The horse, whose name was Bree, had obvious gunshot wounds, and Jones said that it belonged to his ex-girlfriend, Maylee Cooper. Continuing his explanation, Jones admitted that he had shot the horse 4 times with a .22 caliber lever-action rifle. He claimed that he, quote, needed to put it down because he and Cooper had broken up a week prior, and he believed since then no one was feeding or taking care of it. If you think this story already sounds highly questionable, well, you're not alone. Police had a lot more questions for Jones, who apparently had no good answers. When asked what was actually wrong with Bree, Jones apparently struggled to provide any real explanation. That started to make more sense when officers realized that the 24-year-old reeked of alcohol. The truth about what happened allegedly became clear when police spoke with Jones's devastated ex-girlfriend, who said that she had been on her way to pick up Bree when she received a call informing her that the horse was dead. She said approximately 2 hours earlier she had been at Jones's house, but had left after he got incredibly drunk and started screaming at her about their breakup and accusing her of cheating on him. She drove back to her own house to get a truck and trailer to collect Bree, but hadn't arrived in time before Jones allegedly took out his rage on the horse. Jones's own father apparently backed up Cooper's version of events, telling police that his son was out of control and needed to be criminally charged. Apparently, that's exactly what happened. After being arrested, Jones was charged with felony malicious injury to property. If convicted, he faces up to 5 years in prison and a fine of up to $1,000. Representatives from the NYPD say that they are investigating the murder of a 52-year-old woman this week after her body was found hidden inside of an apartment that she had just moved into days earlier. The whole thing began sometime on the afternoon of March 14th when family members of 52-year-old Nadia Vittel contacted the supervisor of her apartment building on East 31st Street in Manhattan's Kips Bay neighborhood. Nadia had just moved into a unit there a few days before, but the family said that they were concerned because no one had been able to get in contact with her for nearly 48 hours. The building supervisor agreed to knock on Nadia's door, and at the urging of her family eventually agreed to go inside. When he did, he found the 52-year-old's dog, who was barking and appeared to be alone. It appeared that the animal had been by itself for an extended period of time because it had urinated in various places on the floor. Disturbingly, there was no sign of Nadia anywhere. However, there were indications that a struggle might have taken place there. This included a dented and broken section of drywall inside the apartment. Soon after this information was relayed to the family, Nadia's son and a couple other family members traveled to the building to continue looking for any clues about what might have happened to her. During this search, they reportedly stumbled across a duffel bag that had been left at the bottom of a front hall closet. The bag was covered in a coat, and when it was moved, the family members saw a human leg. Sadly, it would quickly be confirmed that this was Nadia's body. A medical examiner later ruled that she had died from blunt force trauma to the head. Following further investigation, NYPD detectives recovered surveillance video from the apartment building that helped to establish a timeline of the case. The last time she was seen alive was approximately 11:30 a.m. on March 12th, 2 days before her body was discovered. This wasn't all that the video revealed, however. According to police, cameras captured an unknown man and woman who were seen entering Nadia's apartment multiple times in the lead up to her murder. The last time they were caught on camera was around 5:45 p.m. on March 12th, just hours after she was last seen alive. In addition to this, footage shows that the suspects left the scene in a vehicle that belonged to Nadia, and personal items belonging to the 52-year-old were found in garbage bags in the basement trash area of her apartment building. At the time of this recording, almost no other information is available about the suspects or their possible relationship with Nadia. The only description given of the suspects we have comes from local news reports, which describe them as a black male and black female in their 20s. The situation is still under investigation. Representatives from Nevada's North Las Vegas police say that 4 people are dead this week, including the suspect, following a disturbing shooting at a local apartment complex. The situation began at around 3:15 p.m. on March 12th, when North Las Vegas police received a 911 call about a shooting in progress at an apartment complex on the 2200 block of East Nelson Avenue. According to reports, dispatchers could hear the sounds of gunfire during the call, and a large police response was sent to the scene right away. When officers arrived at the location, they encountered the alleged shooter, 43-year-old Edward Brooks, in the courtyard of the complex. Brooks was armed, and despite being issued several commands to drop his gun, reportedly continued to walk towards the officers while holding the weapon. The 43-year-old was shot and was later pronounced dead. Sadly, this was just the beginning of what police would find as they carried out a search of the scene. The bodies of 3 women and a dog would also be recovered in 2 separate apartments, all of whom had suffered fatal gunshot wounds. The 3 women have since been identified as 42-year-old Tiffany Mawarder, 48-year-old Venus Hart, and 52-year-old Africa Woods McGill. While police say that they are still trying to piece together much of what happened at the time of this recording, it's said that Brooks was a resident at the complex where the crime took place. It's also been reported that he may have been involved in some sort of argument with 2 of the female victims prior to shots being fired. The most detailed information to be released so far relates to the 3rd victim, Africa McGill Woods, who it's believed tried to intervene in the situation as a good Samaritan. According to family members of the 52-year-olds, she and Brooks had been neighbors for some time, and she may have been concerned about the safety of a 2-year-old child who she knew lived at his unit. That child was reportedly found physically unharmed at the scene. Further evidence that Africa may have tried to intervene is the fact that it was her dog that was apparently killed during the attack. At the time of this recording, the tragedy is still under investigation. Officials in Connecticut announced that a police officer will get to keep his job this week, 3 months after he was caught on camera assaulting a fellow driver while off duty during the middle of a road rage incident. The whole thing started on December 8th, 2023, when 37-year-old Thomas Brocuglio was driving in Hartford County when he came to a red light at an intersection in the town of Rocky Hill. He sat there for a couple of moments waiting to make a turn before realizing that the driver of the black Toyota Tacoma in front of him appeared not to be paying attention. He was stopped at the light even though he was legally allowed to turn right. Dashcam footage taken from inside Brocuglio's work van shows how he waits a couple moments before honking, yelling out at the other driver, "What are you doing?" A few seconds later, this same dash camera captured the other driver, 57-year-old Meriden Police Corporal Alan Ganter, as he got out of his vehicle and started walking towards Brocuglio's truck. He can be seen waving his badge while saying, quote, "You can't take a right on a red here, you ass." Brocuglio responded by informing the off-duty officer that the sign at the intersection actually said, "Stop here on red," and not "No turn on red." He then accused Ganter of being on his phone and not paying attention to traffic. This apparently set Ganter off, who a few moments later threatened to call Brocuglio's work supervisor and write him a ticket for honking. Brocuglio responded by asking for Ganter's badge number, at which point Ganter reached through the window and punched him in the face. Ironically, Ganter then asks Brocuglio if he wants to get arrested, to which the 37-year-old replies, quote, "You're going to get arrested for punching a civilian." It seems that Brocuglio was correct, as Ganter was taken into custody a short time later. He was charged with breach of peace and third-degree assault. While it appears the 57-year-old's case still has yet to go to court, in the meantime, it has already been decided that he will get to keep his job with the Meriden Police Department. That being said, he was suspended for 5 days without pay, permanently removed from his assignment as a school resource officer, and will also have to attend de-escalation training for the next 3 years. Representatives from the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of Georgia say that a pair of men have been officially charged this week, more than a year after they allegedly blew up part of a woman's home as part of an unhinged plot after she rejected one of them that she had met through an online dating app. The whole thing apparently started sometime in late 2022 when the female victim, who has not been identified by name, met 37-year-old Stephen Glosser through an online dating app. The pair reportedly exchanged messages, though according to reports, nothing serious ever materialized, and the situation ended with both of them blocking each other. To the woman, it apparently seemed like that was it. However, unbeknownst to her, Glosser was allegedly plotting his revenge over being rejected. Between December of 2022 and January of 2023, Glosser and his roommate, 34-year-old Caleb Kinsey, reportedly began stalking the female victim after figuring out her personal information online. It's now alleged that over this time they also started putting together a plan. The details of this unhinged plan apparently changed over time, though at one point it reportedly included shooting arrows into the victim's front door, mailing her dead rats and dog feces, scalping her, and buying a large python, which they planned to release into her home to eat her young daughter. According to investigators, the men eventually settled on something else though, blowing up the woman's house. After making a homemade bomb, Glosser and Kinsey allegedly took it to the victim's home where they detonated it in the early morning hours of January 13th, 2023. Thankfully, though, no one was injured. The property, which was located in the city of Richmond Hill, was brand new at the time, and the victim and her family were still in the process of moving in. Still, extensive damage from the blast was done to the property, mostly in the garage, and the house was said to be the victim's dream home. Glosser and Kinsey were eventually tied to the crime after a vehicle belonging to Kinsey was reportedly seen by a witness fleeing the scene after the bombing. Investigators with the ATF say that evidence was also recovered of the men purchasing explosives which were allegedly used to make the device. At the time of this recording, both men are now in custody and are facing a number of charges. These include stalking, use of an explosive to commit another felony offense, conspiracy to use an explosive to commit a felony, and possession of an unregistered destructive device. Authorities in Tallahassee, Florida say that a local woman is in custody and is facing charges this week following a truly disturbing incident last week in which she allegedly killed her own mother and cut out her heart while in the midst of an apparent psychotic break. The whole thing started shortly after 1 p.m. on March 6th when Tallahassee police received 2 911 calls about the same incident in quick succession. The first caller stated that there was a naked woman outside of a townhouse on the 2300 block of Hartsfield Way who appeared to be dancing and trying to get into a delivery vehicle. The second caller stated that this woman was her mother, 58-year-old Erlene Tucker, and that Tucker was refusing to come inside and put clothes on. When officers arrived at the scene, Tucker was still outside and was still uncooperative. She was also reportedly rambling to herself nonstop about free will, though at one point ominously stopped, saying, quote, "You need to take me to the police station. I have committed a grievous crime." After a little more coaxing, Tucker agreed to accompany officers inside so that she could put some clothes on. She had only made it a few steps inside, however, before she stopped again and began breathing heavily and grunting. That's when police realized that she was standing over what appeared to be a human organ on the hallway floor. This gruesome discovery was confirmed when another officer continued into the house to look for Tucker's clothing, and they stumbled across a grisly scene inside of a bedroom. Lying on the floor was the body of an elderly woman. She had sustained obvious and grievous wounds to her chest. It turned out that she was missing most of her heart, which is what police had seen when they first entered the house. Her identity would later be confirmed as Lucille Tucker, Erlene Tucker's mother. Around this time, Tucker reportedly stated to an officer that had stayed with her, quote, "It cannot end. It will not end. The saga will continue, people, until I am in a jail cell. I have to be in prison for my actions." After getting Tucker in some clothes, police attempted to interview her down at the station. During this time, she would also talk to herself non-stop, alternating between seemingly incriminating statements and incoherent ones. These included statements about how her mother was a, quote, "sacrificial lamb," as well as another where she claimed she had cut out her mom's heart to, quote, "inspect it." In further conversations with Tucker's daughter, police learned that Tucker was a healthcare worker who had moved her mother Lucille in with her about a year ago due to her declining health. The daughter said that Tucker had been hospitalized for mental health issues about 30 or 40 years ago, then again in 2009, though as far as she knew had never been formally diagnosed. That being said, she believed Tucker might be suffering from schizophrenia. Before she had contacted 911, the daughter explained that she had received several bizarre and nonsensical calls from her mother that day, but that she hadn't picked up when she phoned back. At the time of this recording, Tucker remains in custody and has been charged with first-degree murder. Authorities in Pennsylvania and New Jersey say that a 26-year-old man is successfully in custody this week following a disturbing crime spree in which he allegedly killed 3 family members, then fled across state lines before finally being arrested after an hours-long standoff. The whole thing started just before 9 a.m. on March 16th, when officers with Pennsylvania's Falls Township Police were called to an address in Levittown with reports of a shooting. When police arrived at the home in question, located on Viewpoint Lane, they discovered the bodies of 2 people. They were identified as 52-year-old Karen Gordon and her daughter, 13-year-old Kira Gordon. 3 others who were in the house at the time provided officers with the harrowing details of what had happened. They claimed that another family member, 26-year-old Andre Gordon had shown up that morning armed with a rifle. He shot Karen and Kira, who were his stepmother and sister, before fleeing the scene. The witnesses had managed to survive by hiding during the attack. Just minutes after responding to this deadly incident, Falls Township Police were called about a second shooting at another Levittown home. They raced to that scene on Edgewood Lane to find a third victim, 25-year-old Taylor Daniel. Sadly, she was also pronounced dead. The two incidents were linked when surviving witnesses at the second shooting explained that Andre Gordon had shown up there with a rifle as well. The 26-year-old allegedly hit one of the survivors with the weapon before shooting Taylor, who was the mother of his two children. A search was quickly launched for Gordon, one which picked up when authorities learned about a carjacking in the nearby borough of Morrisville. The male victim was reportedly held at gunpoint by Gordon, who proceeded to take his 2016 Honda CR-V before heading across the state line into Trenton, New Jersey. The SUV was found abandoned approximately 2.5 hours later. At 12:20 p.m., roughly 40 minutes after the stolen vehicle was recovered, police received a call that Gordon had barricaded himself inside of a home close by. The family who lived there said that they had managed to flee upstairs, but that they believed the 26-year-old was still on the first floor. A large police response was soon mobilized, and the area was cordoned off. While this situation would last for several more hours, unbeknownst to police, Gordon was able to escape from the house before the perimeter was set up. He was ultimately arrested late that afternoon after someone in the area recognized him and called 911. According to reports, he was not armed at the time he was taken into custody. At the time of this recording, many questions remain about the situation, including what motivated the deadly crime spree. Falls Township Police say that Gordon was homeless and had previous interactions with their department, though stated, quote, "nothing that would indicate anything like this." Gordon is now facing numerous charges in both Pennsylvania and New Jersey, including multiple counts of first and second-degree murder, aggravated assault, robbery, first-degree carjacking, second-degree possession of a weapon for an unlawful purpose, and second-degree unlawful possession of an assault firearm. Before we wrap up, we'd like to take a second to give a huge shout out to everyone who has made it this far into the video. Seriously, thank you so much for watching. If you found today's upload interesting and informative, we'd be honored if you consider liking and subscribing, as well as hitting the notification bell and selecting all notifications to stay up to date with our latest releases. If you're looking for additional ways to help support the channel, we'd love to have you join us over on Patreon. Patrons get ad-free and early access to all of our content, as well as 4 additional stories per week for each of our Crimes of the Week and Crimes of the Week International videos. You can learn more at patreon.com/crimezone, where you'll also find some of the fine folks whose names are currently on screen. All that being said, we understand that not everyone has the means to support financially, and that's totally okay. We appreciate every like, sub, share, and comment that you send our way. Once again, thanks so much everyone, and take care.